Good Sunday evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Bullpen Podcast. Hope everyone's enjoying this Labor Day weekend edition. I'm your host, Adam Kunos. You can follow me on Twitter at Kunos19. Also, don't forget to follow the show at the Bullpen Pod on Twitter as well. Head on over to our YouTube channel for all of your shows and baseball clips and much, much more. The Bullpen Podcast is sponsored by Fanatics. Head on over to Fanatics using the link tree in our Twitter bio for all your things Major League Baseball, including upcoming 2023 postseason gear, as well as your one-stop shop for National Football League gear, NBA, NHL, Major League Soccer, Premier League, and all sports leagues that you can think of. Fanatics, your one-stop shop for all of your sports needs. Once again, everyone, happy Sunday to everyone. Hope everyone's enjoying their Labor Day weekend. I know we're kicking off September down here in Florida with an extra 3-day weekend for my wife, who's enjoying a lovely time right now. We are in the final month of the Major League Baseball season, if you can hardly believe that. We've come to the last month of the regular season, and we are in for a hell of a month for Major League Baseball. As we enter this show right now on Sunday, the Atlanta Braves have already notched 90 wins for the season, so they have the best record in Major League Baseball. Baltimore is just a few games above the Tampa Bay Rays, who are making a late-season charge for that AL East title. It is a three-team race out in the AL West between Seattle, Houston, and Texas. The Twins look to be pulling ahead in the AL Central. They're trying to make up some ground in that division. The Brewers and Cubs and even the Cincinnati Reds are making a late charge for the the National League Central Division. So it is races galore overall in Major League Baseball, and we're going to get to that here in a moment. All right, but we are going to start with, unfortunately, some sad news that we learned over this past weekend. So we learned on Saturday that music icon Jimmy Buffett has passed away. He passed away at the age of 76. When this report officially came out, there was no cause of death that was reported. However, it was reported today that Buffett had been fighting Merkel cell skin cancer for the last 4 years. So, unfortunately, he did pass away due to skin cancer. It is definitely a big shock for everyone who is a music fan, who is a country music fan, because Jimmy Buffett is kind of that country music icon that you all grew up with. For me, it was always Margaritaville, Cheeseburger in Paradise. If you've ever been to Disney's Typhoon Lagoon down here at Walt Disney World, it is pretty much a Jimmy Buffett soundtrack that is played throughout the entire day, so you get a lot of Buffett music over at Typhoon Lagoon. Again, very sad that he passed away. Kind of shocking news overall. This was kind of something that caught everyone off guard when the official announcement was made. So, again, Jimmy Buffett unfortunately dead at the age of 76. He will be missed by everyone, and his music is going to live on. So, I think there was one quote that I read saying, "I hope he finds that lost shaker and salt in heaven." And you know what? Cheeseburgers hopefully taste better in paradise. All right. So moving on from unfortunately passing on Jimmy Buffett, we're going to talk about the Kansas City Royals. So a few weeks ago, we talked about the Kansas City Royals and their kind of deal with a stadium over in Kansas City. This past Tuesday, I believe it was past Tuesday or Monday, the Kansas City Royals did release a few new stadium renderings for some new downtown stadiums in Kansas City. So they have two proposed sites for new stadiums, one in the East Village of downtown Kansas City and one on the north side of Kansas City. Now, I got a few renderings over here if you're watching live on YouTube or Twitter of the stadiums. So the first one you see is a very nice rendering over in the East Village of Kansas City. One thing I do like about this rendering, and I hope if the Royals do get a new stadium, if they do get this new proposal done with it, get a chance to build, they are bringing the iconic fountains from Kauffman Stadium over with them to the new stadium. I think the fountains over at Kauffman Stadium are one of the more iconic features of Major League Baseball. Now, if you ask a Major League Baseball fan when they go to stadiums, they always look for that standout feature of any Major League Baseball stadium. For Wrigley Field is the ivy, Green Monster at Fenway, the outfield facade over at Yankee Stadium and in the upper deck, Dodger Stadium with its unique design, the exploding scoreboard at Guarantee Rate Field. Each stadium has their very own unique feature. And it's one of the things I like that Kansas City has done this new renderings is they're going to bring the fountains over into this new stadium. Now, nothing is official yet. There hasn't been any done deal with the Royals making this new stadium, any kind of signed lease or anything. They're still playing at Kauffman Stadium for the foreseeable future, but they are looking for more of a stadium entertainment district. And it's something that you're seeing around Major League Baseball and which was around more of the sports franchises in North America. They are trying to build an entertainment district around a stadium that is built within the downtown area. So apartments, condos, shops, trying to bring in more jobs, more revenue to the area, which I actually do like what the Royals are trying to do. And I got a few more renderings I'm going to show you. Excuse me. So they're trying to make this a more fan-friendly area to where they can attract concerts, events, just everything that you can think of to this stadium when the Royals are not playing from, let's say, March to early October, as this baseball season is about 6.5 months. So the Royals are proposing this new stadium deal. I hope the Royals do get a new stadium. They are in dire needs of a stadium, and here's another rendering, which is actually my favorite rendering of the East Village proposal. It looks absolutely gorgeous. It looks like a more modern, updated stadium. Looks like they got a little, I want to say a little like Hall of Fame or something stored in the front. Don't know what the official word on that is yet, but the Royals do need a new stadium. I haven't had a chance to be at Kauffman Stadium in person. I've driven by Kauffman Stadium on our way out to Yellowstone. It's a nice stadium from the view. I mean, you can definitely tell it's Kauffman Stadium with the giant scoreboard in the shape of the Kansas City Royals logo. So the Royals are now pushing really hard for a new stadium. So we'll see what happens with the Royals. We'll see what happens with Kansas City if they decide to go forward with this. If they decide to just, renovate Kauffman Stadium, add more features to it, we will see exactly what happens. So stay tuned. That is going to be more information to come as we get that information. All right, now last week we did talk about the Los Angeles Angels. I'm still calling the Anaheim Angels because they technically play in Anaheim, but that's a different story for another time. So we talked last week about how the Angels were dealing with a lot of injuries on their team. Ohtani is out pitching for severe. He's sticking to more of the DH role. Mike Trout is landed back on the IL. This past week, the Angels kind of just shocked Major League Baseball and kind of shocked me when I read this story. They made a huge push at the trade deadline. They said, you know what, we're going to be all in for the trade deadline. We're going to go all in. We want to make a playoff push. Haven't been to the playoffs since 2014. So we're going to make a huge push for the playoffs. They bring in Lucas Giolito. They bring in Ronaldo Lopez. They bring in a lot of great pitching to help them get, hopefully, within shouting distance of the AL West. They just put 6 pitchers on waivers on Tuesday, and this is something that completely shocked me. Half the players that they put on waivers were players that they traded for from the White Sox, from teams that were selling at the deadline. Lucas Giolito, Matt Moore, Ronaldo Lopez, Dominic Leon, Ronaldo Garlick, and Hunter Raffone have all been placed on waivers. They were all placed on waivers this past Tuesday, and it kind of caught the entire Angels clubhouse by surprise because they had no idea this was coming. Now, obviously, if you know the business side of baseball, when you put players on waivers, it's kept lock and key. Only the players finds out, and then they probably tell a couple people in the clubhouse, and then the clubhouse finds out that they're no longer on a team. I guess word was that the Angels knew that this was coming, and players were not surprised that they would be placing on waivers. So it's kind of a unique situation for Los Angeles as they kind of sit there going, we're seeing all this salary that we still owe a lot of players money, so it's better to put them on waivers and kind of do a salary dump, which is kind of what they did. They dumped a lot of salary in getting rid of these players. Now, as soon as they were placed on waivers, the 6 players were pretty much claimed by teams. So the Guardians ended up claiming Giolito, Moore, and Lopez. The Reds claimed Raffone, and the Mariners claimed Leon. So when you looked at where the Angels were, they were in shouting distance of the AL West. They were in shouting distance of at least the wild card spot. They were making a push to potentially get a playoff spot. They were looking pretty good to end their little playoff drought. But since the trading deadline of August 1st, the Angels went 8-19, just 8 wins and 19 losses. That is just an awful way to kind of go into August as a potential playoff team. Get into September and say, you know what, it's not working. I don't know what else to do. So the Angels, we kind of knew. I'm not sure if we're say we kind of knew this was coming. It's really hard to tell what their kind of motive was when they went through all these trades to bring in all these players, but it is what it is. The Angels have made all these trades, so they are kind of in the sell mode. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what comes in the offseason with the Angels. They got Mike Trout on the contract. There's been a lot of speculations about Shohei Ohtani, and if he will stay with the Angels, will he not be with the Angels? Will he sign somewhere else? It's going to be a huge kind of following. If you follow the Angels very closely, you're going to be kind of watching what the Angels front office does in the next few weeks leading up to the offseason. We know that the Angels are going to be officially eliminated from playoff contention here within the next few weeks. So we'll see what happens. So stay tuned here to bring you the latest on what's going to be a crazy offseason for Shohei Ohtani. All right, so more recent news. So we have been talking a lot about the White Sox. About 3 weeks ago, I went off on a team. I completely went off on just how horrible this franchise was this year, how disappointment of the season was, how there had to be change, and something had to be done for the White Sox. Then we reported that the White Sox went and fired Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams from their respective posts, and then it came out that the White Sox were potentially looking to leave Chicago altogether. Well, in some more stable news, the White Sox did hire a new GM. So the White Sox have tapped Chris Getz as their new GM for the Chicago White Sox. And I believe he's taken over VP, Vice President of Player Operations for the White Sox. I'm not officially confirming that, but he is the White Sox new GM. So he has taken over a wretched system. He's bringing back Guilford as manager next year. So that has already been confirmed that Guilford and the coaching staff will be back next season. There's been a lot of hate about Chris Getz being tapped as the White Sox GM, and I can see why. There were a lot of good potential GM candidates out there. You had Theo Epstein. You had a lot of GMs out there, or potential GMs from other teams from winning franchises who could have come in and turned this franchise around. So the fact that the White Sox hired Chris Getz, and I'm not saying that he's going to be a bad GM. By no point am I saying that Chris Getz is going to be a horrible GM. I am going to let him run the show for a while. I want to see what he does with this franchise. But the fact that this team has been hated a lot is something that is going to be that's going to follow the White Sox. They've had just a horrible season. They're already eliminated from playoff contention, not officially, but they're over 83 losses in the season. That is a horrible season. This team went from a wild card playoff team in the 2020 pandemic season, a runaway AL Central Division championship in 2021, a 500 season last year, and then a god awful season this year. So something for this franchise has to turn around. And there was a banner that was displayed at the rate over the weekend. I believe it said best saying, Reinsdorf, I believe, has owned the White Sox for 42 years, and they've had 7 playoff appearances in that time, or I believe 5 playoff appearances. So under 10 playoff appearances in the time that he's on the franchise, yes, something has to give. I think Reinsdorf has to sell the White Sox. It just has to be done. Now, what does Getz walk into as new GM? Well, he walks into a really bad farm system that the White Sox have. The White Sox farm system was ranked 26th by MLB Pipeline at the beginning of the season, but they did pick up a couple slots, so they did jump up to 20th in the rankings for farm systems, but that's still just not the best ranking. You look at where this White Sox team was a few years ago when it came to farm system. They had one of the best farm systems in all of Major League Baseball. At one point, they had a load of prospects. They had a load of great talent in the farm system that were potentially going to be coming up for the White Sox, and something that's just not worked out. Again, I can go on and on about this franchise and just how awful they've been this year, but we're not going to do that. I don't want to get that frustrated with the White Sox. They got a month left in the season. I'm hoping they can play good baseball. They just got swept by the Tigers today, so I know they're going to be a fourth place team when the season's all said and done. So they got the Royals coming up starting, I believe, on Monday or Tuesday. It's just I just don't know anymore. All I can say is thank God for football season, thank God for basketball, thank God for soccer right now. I'm an Orlando City fan along with my wife, and Orlando City is sitting third in the Eastern Conference right now. So we're excited that we're going to be seeing some playoff soccer down here in Orlando. So at least one of my teams is going to the playoffs this year, and we know it's going to be a good playoff run for Orlando City. But as for the White Sox, just finish the season and try not to suck fish. At least avoid 100 losses this year, because unfortunately that's the way it's looking right now. Is they're going to be ending up with 100 losses this year. So again, Chris Getz tapped as a new GM, has a lot of work in front of him. So we'll see what he does. All right, so getting into our bullpen picks is going to be a very short show tonight, but we're going to get into our bullpen picks. Last week was not a great week for me. I went 0 for 3 in these picks. My wife was the better. Actually, she is pretty much kicking my ass each week on these bullpen picks. She went 2 out of 3. She picked the Guardians over the Twins. I believe it was also the Giants over the Reds, and then we both kind of struck out with the Brewers, with the Cubbies taking the Brewers. Let's get into it. Let's see if I can at least make up some ground. Again, she sits at 23 out of 40 picks correctly. I sit at 17 out of 40, so she does have a 6-game advantage on me. So still a little season left to go, but let's get into it. First series we're going to go into, this is actually a very crucial series for both the Rangers and the Astros. So the Rangers and Astros, as of right now, as of this recording, are only separated by 1 game in the AL West standing. So Houston is 77 and 60. They are second in the AL West, second in the American Wild Card. The Rangers are 76 and 60. They are third in the AL West, and they hold the third AL Wild Card position. So this is a crucial series that's going to be taking place down in Minute Maid Field down in Houston. Game 1, you got Ty France going up against Haney. France is 10-5 with a 3.49 ERA. Haney is 9-6 with a 4.16 ERA. Game 2 has yet to be decided. Pitchers have not been announced. For that game. However, the Astros have announced that Justin Verlander will take the helm for Game 3, 10-7 with a 3.34 ERA. The Rangers have not announced a Game 3 starter as of yet. So who did we pick in this one? I'll let you know that when I pitched this series to my wife, she kind of gave me a look of like, these two teams, really? Are you kidding me? I know which team she hates more out of the two. But we are both going with the Texas Rangers. We both like Texas in the series for obvious reasons that we're not big Houston Astros fans in this house. So we are both going with the Rangers to take the series and potentially jump up to the second wild card spot in the American League. Our second game that we're going to talk about is again another crucial series, but we're going to be focusing on the NL wild card here for a second. So as of right now, the Cubs are sitting in the second NL wild card slot. They are 2.5 games above both the Giants and the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Cubs are 73 and 64. They are 2.5 games above Arizona and San Francisco. The Giants are tied with Arizona at 70 and 66 right now for the final NL wildcard spot. If you want to talk about another crucial series, this is a crucial series for both the Giants and the Cubs. I will say more for San Francisco, as they are currently tied with Arizona for the final wildcard spot, and Arizona has been playing good lately. Diamondbacks have been playing great baseball lately. They're making a late season charge, so they're trying to push for their first playoff appearance since 2017. And Giants are looking for their first playoff appearance since, I believe, 2016. I'll double check myself on that. But game 1, you got Brandon Webb versus Steele. Webb is 9-11 with a 3.49 ERA. Steele is 15-3 with a 2.69 ERA. The Giants have yet to announce their Game 2 and Game 3 starters. But the Cubs will go Hendricks in Game 2, 5-7 with a 3.59 ERA. And Wicks, who is 2-0 with a 1.80 ERA. Again, huge series for both the Cubs and the Giants. We're going with the north side. We are both going with the Cubs in this series. I think Chicago has the better team right now. I think they're playing better baseball. I think that the Cubs are going to be a playoff team. Surprisingly, they're playing incredibly well this year. They kind of blew over expectations of everyone. Everyone thought they're going to be in a rebuild, but the money they spent in the offseason has paid off for them. Also, I kind of do want the Cubs to win because I want them to help Arizona in the wild card race. So it kind of worked out for me in the end. So I'm hoping the Cubs sweep the Giants so that way Arizona can gain some ground in the NL wild card and flip the standings with San Francisco. All right, we're going to shake it up a little on the bullpen picks. As if you're watching live on YouTube or Twitter, you are not seeing a baseball game as our final pick. We are going National Football League Week 1. So yes, next week is the start of the NFL season. And you know what? I am excited for this season because the Bears are looking fine this year. So they had a great offseason. They had a great draft. They brought in a lot of good players. So we got the Green Bay Packers at Chicago at Soldier Field on 4/25 next Sunday on the 10th on Fox. You're talking the longest NFL rivalry in the National Football League. They've been playing for over 100 years. I know a lot of people say the Packers are the better team. They've had the Bears number over the last 20 years. Again, you're talking to a very diehard Bear fans. I will bleed orange and blue during the NFL season, but I also have a lot of respect for the Green Bay Packers as a Bears fan. I think I was talking to one of my friends who's a Bears fan on Twitter or during one of our shows last year about just how much respect I have for the Green Bay Packers and this rivalry that is more historic in the NFL. Hell, I even go up to a friend's house who is a diehard Packer fan to watch these games. So I have a lot of good friends that are Packer fans. I have a lot of respect for them. So I'm not gonna stand on here and diss the Green Bay Packers. I don't think I should do that. I'm not going to go that route. I'm going to enjoy the game, hope for a very competitive game. I'm hoping that the Bears go in. But as of right now, the Packers do lead the series 105 wins. The Bears have 95 wins, but there have been 6 ties in this series. You're talking a series that dates back all the way to the early 1920s. So, again, playing for the longest time, I think it's the best game that you can start off with in the National Football League. It's going to be top for the late afternoon slate. You got Justin Fields, who's entering his 3rd season with Chicago, 2nd as the Bears starter. He did start last year, and he was very impressive. He has a very good run game. I'm hoping with the addition of DJ Moore, the new offensive weapons that they brought in, he can uh, improve his passing game, work on that passing game. But if he can get his legs going and that passing game on point, I think he's going to be a very dangerous quarterback. Now, on the flip side of the game, you got Jordan Love, who was drafted in 2020 by the Packers, sat as the backup 2 seasons behind Aaron Rodgers. He now gets the helm of the Green Bay offense, and there's going to be a lot of eyes on him this season, as we all know what happened with Aaron Rodgers, how he was having contract disputes with Green Bay. Was he going to be with Green Bay this year? Was he not going to be with Green Bay this year? He gets traded to the New York Jets. He kind of takes the Brett Favre route of leaving Green Bay and going to the New York Jets. So Love is tapped as a starter. Now, he is going to be under a very fine microscope this season. I say that because he is probably one of the more anticipated starters this season, as he has taken over for a franchise that has only had 2 starting quarterbacks since the early 90s. I mean, you had Brett Favre going from the 90s all the way to 2008, and then you had Aaron Rodgers take over in 2008 all the way up to the last season. So they've had only 2 starting quarterbacks in the last 20 years. So Love enters as his 3rd starting quarterback as far as I can remember. So it's going to be a very good game. Now, as who we're picking in this series, come on, ladies and gentlemen, you should know this show by now. I am going with the Bears. My wife was going with the Bears, but she is picking that because she knows that this game may not go well for me, but she loves me, and she puts up with my Bears addiction every season. So we are going with the Bears. If you can't see this, she's giving me a little smug look from behind the scenes because she loves me very much and she knows that I'm a huge Bear fan, and she puts up with this every season. I love her, and we're going to just do this again and again. So we're picking the Bears, so we'll see how we do next Sunday. All right. On a personal note, I had a huge achievement happen this past week. If you're watching the show, you're seeing I officially was awarded my Bachelor's of Science with a degree in Sports Management from Bellevue University as of August 31st. So, as of August 31st, my college career officially came to the end. I was finally awarded my college degree. I cannot tell you how excited I am about this. I've been posting about it on Facebook and Twitter the last few days because I am just like kind of on cloud nine regarding my college degree. Um, this has been a long time coming for me. I have worked incredibly hard for this. I officially started school for college back in 2006 when I graduated from college. Sorry, 2005. I started graduating from high school in 2004. Uh, Went there about 2006. Came down here to Florida, started working for Disney, and kind of stopped going to school and was focusing more on keeping a steady job at the time. Met my wife. We got married. And then when the Disney Inspired program came up, I talked to her about it, and she kind of encouraged me and gave me the kick I needed to get back into school. So she has been my biggest supporter for college. I'm excited. We're going to be making a kind of sash going out there. I'm saying a lot. I do apologize. It's just something that's kind of very exciting for me. I honestly never thought I would get to a point where I would have a college education, and seeing this diploma just on a digital front is just a huge stepping stone. That will be about 6 to 8 weeks before I get the actual physical diploma in the mail, and when that happens, it's going to be another celebration. I'll probably run around like a crazy maniac around the neighborhood screaming my head off. But it is just a huge relief to finally have this. Again, a lot of people I want to thank for this. My wife being the biggest supporter of me, so I thank her. My family, my friends, my student advisor, all the faculty I've worked with over at Bellevue. I thank them very much for their dedication, helping me get through this. And to everyone that's been behind me since I've been starting this, I cannot thank you enough for supporting me through this. It feels incredibly awesome to finally get this degree, and I'm anxious to get the actual physical copy when that comes in 6 to 8 weeks. All right, so that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you guys very much for tuning into the show. A couple things going forward with the show. When we make the transition to our new show, we're going to actually be doing baseball and more. I believe it's going to be one of the working titles that we're going to be going with for this podcast. We're going to be stepping back from live shows every Sunday. As much fun as it is to do a live show every Sunday, I think we're just going to do more of a recording every week and put out a new episode every week. Now, it doesn't mean we're not going to do live shows anymore. We'll do a live show once in a while, around the Super Bowl, around some pretty important sports events. We'll do a live show once in a while, but after the World Series, we're going to probably take a few weeks to kind of rebrand everything, and we're just going to do a recording where we're going to post an episode about every week is what we're planning out right now. So we're still going to do live shows leading up to the end of the World Series, so please tune in every Sunday around 8 o'clock for new Bullpen podcast shows on Twitter and YouTube. But after that, we're just going to do recordings of shows. We won't do as many live shows often. So that will be one of the changes coming to this podcast over the next few weeks. So for those of you who have downloaded the show, who have been with me since the start, I do appreciate you sticking around and listening to me babble on about baseball, other sports, and other events going on. I am going to continue to do that. I am going to branch out to more stuff. I'm going to talk about a lot more anime. I'm going to talk about a lot more sports. I'm going to talk about a lot of topics that interest me, and I just want to talk about them. So stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming along down the pipeline. But thank you guys very much for tuning in tonight. Hope you guys have a great Labor Day weekend, and we will see you here next Sunday back in the Bullpen Podcast. Have a good night.